Hello, and welcome to the latest Power Hour, focused on AI with a human core, powered by our awesome partner at Positive Foundry. I'm Matt Manners, CEO and founder of Inspiring Workplaces Group, and the sun is shining in the UK today, so sorry for the demi-glow that's going on with half my face right now, but I'm not complaining because the sun is shining. We have a lot to cover today, so before we get into the discussion, and what I'm really looking forward to, I wanted to share a few updates from the Inspiring Workplaces Group. We don't often do that, but I think it's the right time to do so. Over the next 6 weeks, we'll be traveling around the world, announcing our 2026 Inspiring Workplaces Award winners. We begin with the Middle East and Africa, which is going to be taking place online due to the current events in the region. Although we look forward to getting back to Dubai as soon as possible. From there, we head to London for the UK, Ireland and Europe Awards, and then on to Sydney for the Australasia and Asia, before finishing in Chicago 6 weeks today, no less, on June the 17th for North and Latin America. Throughout the rest of 2026, we'll also be sharing many of the incredible culture stories emerging from these organizations here at Inspiring Workplaces, our events, podcasts, content section. But for now, good luck to all our finalists around the world. Lastly, for organizations that want recognition for their culture but don't want to wait another year, or for those curious about how prepared their workforce is for the constant state of change we're all navigating, and why we're talking about AI on the event today, we've now bundled together our Certified People First accreditation with our new Future Ready survey product. Together, they help organizations recognize the strength of their culture today while also understanding how ready they are for the future of work, which is now. If you'd like to learn more, please just reach out to me on my email or LinkedIn or wherever you might find me. But back to today's Power Hour and the subject of AI. It was surprisingly difficult to write an introduction for this session because AI is such a vast and fast-moving topic, one that sometimes keeps me awake at night, I'm not going to lie, and is already reshaping our organizations, our work, and ultimately our lives. The potential opportunities are enormous, but so too are the challenges and unintended consequences. Rather than focus on the macro predictions, I wanted to stay grounded in the human reality of what organizations are experiencing right now, and to let people far smarter and nicer than myself share perspectives that hopefully challenge, inspire, and provoke new thinking. AI is moving faster than most organizations can comfortably adapt to. I actually eavesdropped on my wife's town hall, probably shouldn't say that this morning, and all the questions were on this question, and they didn't have answers. But the biggest challenge isn't necessarily the technology itself. It's how leaders navigate trust, culture, ethics, and human potential alongside it. So today's about exploring how we embrace AI in ways that enhance people rather than diminish them, and what leadership looks like in this next era of work. So to our first speaker, and one we all know at Inspiring Workplaces very well. We've had the honor and privilege to work with her for over a decade, I think now, and call her a friend. It's Karin Volo, CEO of Evolution, leadership coach, AI consultant, and someone deeply passionate about keeping humanity at the center of transformation. Karin works with organizations around the world on culture, trust, and conscious leadership. And today she'll explore why AI will ultimately amplify the culture you already have, or better or worse. So welcome, Karin. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for hosting this event, and I'm excited to be a part of involved with everybody here. So
awesome. Well, I'm going to leave you to it and speak to you soon.
Okay. Thank you so much, Matt. I would love for this to be interactive. So if you're watching, please drop in the chat and just let us know where you're coming from. We've got a lineup of wonderful speakers here, and we want to know where you're coming from and just to be more interactive here. So I have 10 minutes, which isn't a whole lot of time, but I'm going to give you as much value as possible. And, you're going to listen to three other speakers, 4 of us total, with lots of value here. So I'm excited for this event. Just as Matt was describing, AI is the biggest game changer in the world. I often refer to AI as the great equalizer because we've all been through this, going through it. We're on that journey of trying to figure out how to manage all the change and how quickly it's changing. So I'm very much about putting humans first and putting AI second. And I really, truly believe that our choice point is right now. That's what I talk about. I've written a book that came out in February called AI Dystopia or Utopia. And that really became a passion for me. I wrote this book and got it out in record time because the time for all of this that's happening right now is pretty insane and crazy for all of us. In the book, I talk about, these two futures that we have. And right now we're kind of at the fork of the road where we can see either path, where we're going. And if we're looking at kind of the dystopian path, we have, the same technology, but totally different outcomes. And when we're looking at the dystopian path, it's fear that's really leading, and what AI does, it magnifies what's happening in your culture. And it's been so much about the technology and the speed and the implementation that a lot of companies are forgetting about taking care of the people. So it's underlining fear is driving decisions. We're seeing a lot about layoffs right now. I've got some good news on that. I'll come to that in a second. But people are feeling very fearful of their jobs. And even if you don't know that it's where it's going, there's this silent resistance that I refer to inside of an organization where people are saying yes to AI or yes to doing things, but then, it's not happening as fast as leaders may want. So people are feeling used, replaced, disposable, and that is a very dystopian path. On the flip side of this, we have the utopian path. And that is really where we have purpose-driven companies. Their values are really strong. They believe in the people. They take care of the people. And AI is actually amplifying the strengths that are already in that culture because they've done a lot of the foundational work. And we'll talk about that here in a second more. But it's really purpose that is driving the decisions. And in those environments, in those companies, you've got people who feel very empowered and they are thriving and the company is thriving. So it's two very different things. And what we're finding is that, we've got the same technology, the same tools, but basically it's a matter of the leadership decisions that people are making. And what a difference that kind of makes. So I'm going to share two different examples on this. And I'm based in Sweden. I do work globally. I'm half American, half Swedish, but I ended up with two Swedish companies for whatever reason it happened. But these are very early case studies on both sides. And what's interesting, and this is really hot off the presses research right now for the dystopian path, is that companies are actually regretting laying off people right now. So 55% of companies regret that they're replacing their humans with AI. And 1 in 3 companies are actually spending more now to rehire the people that they've laid off because of how much what they thought they were going to save with the layoffs. So this is good news when you have a people first type of mindset, value base that you're living from. And I found this fascinating. It came out, I think, in the last month or so, but Gartner is basically saying that half of all AI layoffs are about to be reversed. And by 2027, their companies have been laying off, and we hear it all the time in the news, they're going to be coming back, which is really good news for all of us. I mean, basically, you've got companies or leaders that are making decisions off the cuff and very short-minded and short mindset for this. Klarna is one of Swedish unicorn companies, and they were one of the first to adapt to AI. They were super excited about it. They laid off their customer service, implemented AI bots there, and it was a complete disaster for them. They laid off 700 people, and within the next year, they were hiring them all back. And basically, it found that the chat bots were making disastrous mistakes for them. So, it's not about whether the AI is working, but it's really about how are you leading? What decisions are you making? Let's take this to the other side. And I love this example. I think IKEA has done a beautiful job on this. They basically also in their customer service, which is one of the areas that's being hit first, but they had they brought in chatbots that were able to handle 47% of all the customer inquiries because there was a lot of repeat customer inquiries. And the people who work in their customer service, like anyone who's looked at the IKEA catalogs, it's like, their people have a lot of value because they know the products, they know the company really well. So instead of cutting those jobs, they replaced a lot of the first tier and customer service employees And they took this group of 8,500 employees and retrained them and empowered them with using AI, but they developed something that they were thinking about doing for a long time, and that was creating interior design consultants. So anybody that's buying products, if they can talk to an interior design online and work with AI, they could, get some input. Well, guess what? It turns out that that division has actually brought in 1.3 billion in new revenue for them. And by 2028, they are looking to have that about 10% of their whole revenues, which is really exciting. And I love that example. And I have to be honest, I am searching all the time for the examples of good companies, and I'm not finding very many of them that often. But basically, when we have them, we need to lift them up and say, hey, this is how to do it, right? All right, so we've got, the good, the bad, and the ugly, basically. But this is a choice point for everybody. This is something that's happening right now, and it's happening whether we're doing it consciously or not. So it's really important for leaders to understand the bigger picture and where we're going to go. And sometimes people are in that fear, fight, freeze mode, right? And they're when they're coming from fear, they're standing still, they're not doing anything. And that's still a choice, but it's actually going to be a very costly choice, because if you don't adapt to AI and you don't bring it on, then you're actually going to end up having you're going to be left behind. So it's a matter of looking at what are the decisions that you're making and how are these pointing you towards the future. And I think right now we have the biggest opportunity for leaders in companies to make the right choices to get us on that utopian path. And basically, the way I look at AI, it's kind of like a mirror. It reflects back to you your values. And if you have blind spots, that's what I mean with the cracks, right? If there's things going on inside of the culture, boy, that AI is going to find it and make it show for everybody. And so you really have to do a lot of internal reflection by yourself. How are the decisions you're making? How are you using it? How are you interacting with it? But then organizationally as well. And how are you implementing it? And there needs to be a level of compassion and understanding that basically we're on this path and there's so much going on that, we have to be able to handle it well. So very quickly, there are 4 pillars to culture as I've defined them. And companies that are doing really well are the ones that aren't focusing just on the technology. They're combining and empowering their people. And the foundational things, and I've worked with culture for over, a decade, over 2 decades, basically. But, you've got leaders who care, who genuinely care about people. Trust is really, really important. And I find it so fascinating because we're coming back to how important is trust and what are people doing with, the levels of trust. And do we trust these companies, and we have choices that we can make around that as individuals and, the AIs that we're using. Purpose and values, it's always been important for very forward-thinking companies, and it's even more so important now. So if you have a good foundation with your value and trust, you're going to be able to build everything on it, and the AI implementations and rollout are going to go much smoother because of that. And then obviously engagement, it's something we've all been working with for many, many years. And how do we get that? So what AI is doing is basically looking at the good and the bad and the ugly and showing us what needs to be done and, where we can work with it. So just a reflection question for everyone as we start to wrap this up a little bit. But, what of those 4 pillars, what would AI expose as the weakest in your organization right now? And that's where you can identify it, then you can strengthen it, and then you can start to work and leading it. And really, when we come down to it, and we're starting to swing back to this because there is this mad rush and dash to move forward with AI. But when you build it on a solid foundation of culture, that actually becomes a good part of your AI strategy. So having that foundational part first and then adding the AI, and just knowing that people are at different stages within your team, within your organization, even departments. Some departments are going to be, charging ahead because they're very early adapters to AI, and there's going to be other areas that are not. And we need to have an understanding like we're all in this game together. And, just the last thing I'll mention here as I wrap up is that I just wrote an article today. I didn't include it in any of this, but basically that what if we could give AI a global purpose? I just wanted you to sit with that particular question, because that is something that has just it landed on me last week. And I was like, wow, that would be pretty amazing if we could all put together like helping humanity thrive or something like that. I think it would be amazing. So here is, my book again. And if you want to reach out to me and have a discussion, I'm happy to talk to you. And I appreciate being invited here and being a part of this event. And I'll wrap it up here. So if you have any questions or anything, we can come back to this. And I appreciate everyone's time. And we will pass the baton to whomever's going to take it next. And I can't stop sharing. Did I? Yeah, there we go. So thank you for listening. And
thank you so much, Karin. I'm going to give a couple of comments maybe as we go today, because we might run out of time for the discussion bit at the end, because we've got 4 great storytellers. But lots to think about. I like the dystopian, utopian, half glass full, half glass empty kind of thing. I mean, personal take. I've had a dystopian view for about 2 or 3 years now. My wife's an accountant, and I said to her 2 years ago, in 5 years you won't have a career. And nothing that I see so far makes me think that that necessarily won't be the case. The good part is the human interaction piece is coming to the fore. So, the layoffs being reversed is nice to see, but again, for the past couple of years, I've just made it a real stark definition there, where it's people are picking profits over people. And I think those organizations will maybe ultimately lose, because we might push back and go, well, it's really important to put people at the heart of your business. But I wonder that they might be reversing them now, but the moment the profit still wins and they don't need the people, what happens then? But really, really thought-provoking pieces. I'm really, really grateful. Hopefully we'll be able to bring everybody back together at the end, but thank you so much. And I need to read your book.
It will give you hope, actually. I am of the mindset we are going to end up on the utopian path. So
I do have lots of hope. It's just I thought I'd bring in the dystopian now and get it out of the way. So thank you so much, Karin. Thank you. And we'll move on to our next storyteller, who is Allan Dykstra. I think, there we go. He's an optimistic futurist, unlike me, and globally recognized keynote speaker on the future of work and human leadership. I had a really fascinating chat with Josh a few weeks ago, and really looking forward to this. He brings a refreshing and thought-provoking perspective to AI, challenging the assumption that faster adoption automatically means better leadership. This session explores the uniquely human capabilities that organizations will value most in an AI-enabled future. And I think from Josh and Karin and others, we are seeing that the real X factor here is the human leaders making these decisions right now, and the paths they take their organizations down. So without further ado, please welcome to the Power Hour, Josh. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Matt.
Thank you. Hey, I'm going to leave you to it, and you have about 10 to 15 minutes, so please don't rush. No dramas at all, okay?
Awesome. Thanks so much. Hello, everybody. It's good to be with you. I just have a few things to share with you. Hopefully we'll get to the Q&A time at the end, because it would be really fun to chat. I want to share with you 3 skills that I think we all need in order to actually lead in the age of AI, because as you can see here on the slide, I don't think AI can actually lead anything. And so we'll talk about this a little bit more. But I always like to start with a little bit of baseline information here. Some of you all listening to this maybe know this. More and more people are, but just in case even one person doesn't know this, I think it's really important to understand that when we say AI, when most people use the words, the letters AI, what they actually mean are these letters, LLM. So this stands for large language model, as some of you certainly know. But these models work, right, because we fed them huge amounts of data, like everything on the internet data, huge amounts of language data. And this is what most of us interact with. It's Claude, it's ChatGPT, it's Gemini. And what I would suspect is if you've engaged with one of these models, you've probably had one of these models make something up. Right. So I'm guessing, right, I can't see you, but I'm guessing you're probably raising your hand here and saying, yes, I've had an LLM make something up on me. We actually have a word for this. It's hallucination, right? But I want to suggest to you that this word actually implies a misunderstanding about this technology. Because when a human hallucinates, something has gone terribly wrong. But when an AI hallucinates, it's actually doing what it was designed to do. So if we understand this technology a little bit better, LLMs are what we call autoregressive, which just is a fancy way of saying it predicts the next word by analyzing the last word. It's all statistical probabilities. Now, sometimes they predict beautifully, many times, and they seem to be getting better and better at this, but sometimes they predict confidently wrong. I'm guessing you've experienced this. And the reality is that the machine is always making stuff up. Or sometimes it just makes stuff up in a more factual way. So this means hallucinations aren't actually a glitch. They're how the system works. This technology, my friends, this is not a calculator. Right? That is predicting language. It's guessing what comes next. Right? And many times it guesses correctly. But in many, many ways, this technology is less like a calculator and more like a human brain. Like if you think about it, right, this is more how our brains work. Right? We take the data we have and we make a logical guess. So if we think about our technology, think about AI, LLM technology in this way, I don't think hallucination is actually the right word. I think a better word actually might be creativity. Now, this is admittedly a strange way to think about our technology, but we've never really had a technology before that we could call creative. But I want to suggest to you that this is helpful when you think about leading in the age of AI. Because what do we do as a human when we're trying to lead a very creative human? We get curious. We start asking questions. We start to say, how do we harness the creative power of this human? What role best suits this creative person? How do we utilize their creativity, right? We get curious. We start asking questions when we're leading a creative human. And I want to suggest to you that this is the same thing you want to do with your creative AI colleague, right? So the first new skill that we need as leaders in the age of AI is curiosity. We need a lot more of this because most of us as leaders have been taught either implicitly or explicitly that we need to have the answers, right? If you're a leader, you need the answers. A lot of us feel like we do. In this age, you don't. In fact, you can't, right? Many times the AI actually knows a lot more about a certain subject than you do. So what we need to have is better questions. We need to be comfortable. We need to get more comfortable with not knowing and just asking more. So this is our first skill. Second skill I want to share with you starts with a huge ton of boxes. This is a live feed from the front of my house. No, just kidding. There's actually 6 inches of snow on the ground here in Denver this morning. But maybe your house looks like this. I don't know, a lot of boxes, right? Over the last few decades, we have used globalization to make our stuff really cheap. We might call this the Amazon effect, right? Some of you have felt victim to the Amazon effect. This is basically globalization commoditizing things. Globalization makes things really cheap. Okay. Now, I want to use this as a comparison because now let's talk about knowledge work, right? This is the work that I would imagine most of us listening to this do, right? So when we think about knowledge work, what is the output of knowledge work? You're probably thinking about, well, I'm creating a lot of documents. I'm sending a lot of emails. I'm building a lot of PowerPoint decks, maybe making training videos. I'm finding images, basic legal documents, filling out forms, that kind of stuff, right? That's how we know that you are doing your job. That's how your boss knows that you're doing your job, is if you're outputting those kind of things. Now, if it's not already, everything that I just described will be done better and faster by an LLM than it is by you within a couple years, if it's not happening already, right? So what I'm suggesting to you is that in a very similar way to how globalization commoditized our stuff and made stuff very cheap, I'm suggesting to you that AI will commoditize knowledge work. AI is going to make knowledge work very cheap to do because it can produce it so fast and so quickly, right? So this is probably making sense to you. You've probably noticed this happening already. Now, your workplace probably won't look exactly like this workplace I have in this image. So I've got people kind of sitting and working side by side to humanoid robots. Your workplace probably won't look like this immediately. Eventually, maybe yes, but not super soon. But there are going to be robots working next to you, right? They're just going to be inside your computer. They're going to be inside your phone. They're going to be inside other devices. They're going to be more invisible than this picture makes it seem. But these robots are absolutely going to change your job if they haven't already, right? So here's the way that I encourage you to think about this as a leader leading other humans who are trying to navigate this transition. What is actually happening to your job? Basically, LLMs, they do some things really, really well. One of those things that they do really well is making the thing, right? They can make a PowerPoint deck. They can make a video. They can make an image so much faster than we can. This is what we used to think of as the output of knowledge work. We used to spend a lot of time making the thing, right? On the middle of the task. But this is the part that the AI commoditizes. The AI does this better and faster than you. So now what happens is your job moves, right? And all of the people that you lead, their job moves from the center to the edges, right? So now your job and the people that you're leading, their job becomes setting up the thing and verifying the thing, with the context and the purpose and making sure it actually produced the thing you wanted it to produce, right? This is like a species level shift in white collar work, right? The tasks we used to think of as work actually they're moving to other places, right? And those of you who are using AI a lot already, you can verify that this is true. But this is really important for us to know as people who are leading other people, because it means that there's another new skill we need, which is definition. We need to get so much more clear about what we want, right? If the machine can produce it faster than we can, the job that we have now is to be really clear about what we want and make sure we're actually producing the thing that we need. Now, what does this require of us? I think it requires a lot more clarity, right? Most of us are going to need to brush up on our communication skills, right? On our descriptive ability, on our way to describe the thing that we want and need. We need to get much clearer on our thinking, right? We didn't used to have to do that because we could kind of do it while we were making the thing. But now someone else is going to make the things. You have to get clearer on it ahead of time. Now, remember the first skill, right? The first skill of curiosity, right? Like you don't have to have all the answers, but you do need to be clear about where you're going. Okay. So think of it like a trip and you are the guide, right? Maybe you have a chauffeur and they're taking you on a trip and you have a driver. You actually don't need to make any decisions between here and there. But you better darn well know where you want to end up, right? You better know where you want to end up and how soon you need to be there. But everything else in the meantime, right, doesn't matter so much. So, but you are now the guide in this relationship with the robot, okay? For the next skill, we're going to go back in time a little bit. This is little baby Mark Zuckerberg in 2014. So I'm imagining some of you are maybe familiar with this phrase, move fast and break things. This was Facebook's unofficial motto for a long time. But did you know that they also had another sign hanging up in their office, which said this, slow down, fix your stuff. True story. Slow down, fix your stuff. All right. Years ago, I worked with some folks at Facebook who told me about this. Some of you have maybe noticed, maybe all of you have noticed this. There's a connection between AI and speed, right? You just feel it, right? I feel it when I use my LLM, right? I use Claude a lot. When I use it, it makes me feel slow, right? Like my biological software is like archaic and kind of out of date, right? I just feel slow because it is so fast. And so I want to suggest to you that there's actually great wisdom in Facebook. And that's the only time you'll ever hear me say that, by the way. But AI is fast. It processes words so much faster than I can read them, much less think about them. So what do we do with that? We have to slow down. This is a counterintuitive kind of move. So I want to switch to a sports metaphor here for a moment. What do you do if you're playing a sport and someone on your team is exponentially better in a certain position? Well, you let them play that position, right? You don't try to fight them for that position. right? Like you just let the better person play in that spot. And I want to suggest to you that this is what you want to do with your AI colleagues. Don't fight them for what they're better at. Let them play in the place where they're good at. And the reality is we already can't compete on many forms of intelligence already. Computational intelligence and, legal intelligence and coding intelligence, right? Most of us can't compete already on these forms of intelligence. So just let AI play those positions. Don't fight with them for these positions. And so the big takeaway here as leaders is that we need to STFD, slow the F down. And this is a really counterintuitive leadership move. I realize because the AI is so fast, the tendency is to try to keep up. But the actual leadership move here is to slow the F down. All right. So the last skill here, the third skill, I'm going to suggest to you is wisdom. I'm pretty convinced that wisdom is the meta skill that we need to build in the next decade. So how do we actually cultivate wisdom? You have to slow down. Slowing down is not optional to build wisdom. If you think about the wisest people you know, why do they seem wise, right? What do they do that shows you their wisdom? They slow down, right? And so this feels remarkably counterintuitive in a world that's speeding up, but that's exactly why we need it so much. But what does wisdom require of us? It requires space. And space is not something that's probably going to be just given to you. You need to take it. And if you're a leader, you need to make it for your people. I just did a podcast episode on this a couple of weeks ago. If it serves you, you can check it out. But this is the question I would want you to consider. What do you need to do to increase your space, to increase your wisdom? Start here. So here's the 3 skills. Build your curiosity by having better questions. Create better definition in what you're asking for through more clarity, and create more wisdom by cultivating space. All right. That's what I got for you today. Thank you all. I hope we get a chance to chat more at the end.
Absolutely fantastic, Josh. Thank you so much. Love your slant on it all. It's really, really good. So much that came to my mind. We'll try and get to the end so we can have more conversations, but slow the feck down, as the Irish would say. I mean, my colleague Marta was talking about the fact that we were even seeing articles now around AI burnout and how it's driving burnout because of the speed and because you say it's counterintuitive to slow down when it comes back so fast. That just pinged in my brain listening to you then. It's leadership's responsibility to slow it down to prevent that side of things.
I think so.
But so much in there. Thank you so much. I think I'll be watching this hour back almost immediately this evening. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Right. On to our next storyteller, in the hope that we can bring them all together at the end. We felt like we usually have 3 storytellers in the hour and then a conversation, but these 4 are so good that we wanted to make sure we brought them to you today. Laura Cook is co-founder and CEO of Positive Foundry, helping organizations develop the human skills that drive meaningful performance in culture. And Laura's been doing cohorts with our community this year and last year as well. So some of you might know her really, really well. In a world obsessed with AI tools, Laura brings the conversation back to people, arguing that the quality of AI outcomes ultimately depends on the quality of human thinking. Something we're starting to see a theme on today, thinking, leadership and development behind them. So without further ado, please welcome to the Power Hour, Laura. Hello.
Hello, Matt. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And gosh, what a hard act to follow. Those 2 speakers were phenomenal. And I too will be going back to listen to them again. I was taking notes furiously, but really, really remarkable conversations.
Me too. And great to have you as always. And over to you. And I'll speak to you in about 10 to 15 minutes.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Matt. I think I'm going to share my screen. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I am so happy to be with you here today. I'd like to talk really about better humans, better AI, and why developing people is your AI strategy. What I want to cover in our short time together is to align us all on AI adoption and strategy as it exists today, set out the importance of a human being in this process and the keys to adoption success. I want to talk about a competitive advantage that not everyone is considering right now, and then finally, how we might adopt a win-win AI strategy that benefits the organization and the people who serve it. Again, along the way, if you have comments, I hope you will drop those in the chat, or questions. It will be great to come back together at the end. So a question that I kind of opened this with is, if AI can write, analyze, design, code, and decide, what exactly is your job? And I'm not asking that to frighten you or me. I'm asking it because the leaders who can answer it clearly and help their people answer it are the ones who will define the next era of work. And the ones who can't will spend the next 5 years reacting instead of leading. We're here to talk about what it actually means to lead organizations through AI, not just adopt it, but lead through it without losing the very things that make the organization worth working for. And most AI adoption failures aren't technology failures. They're actually human failures. Most organizations today are only still experimenting with AI. Very few are actually scaling it across workflows or even measuring its impact in meaningful ways. And when you look at the McKinsey Global Survey data, it found that fewer than 20% of organizations are successfully scaling AI. And the primary barriers aren't technical, they're cultural. So lack of trust, unclear ownership, and workforce anxiety are the 3 primary barriers that became apparent in their survey. People are worried about what it means for their job. And when we worry, no one does their best work. And the concern is real. The Pew study research showed that half of Americans are more concerned than excited about the increased use of AI. And one of the most common fears is that it will weaken human skills and connection. So before we even talk about AI strategy, we have to sort of acknowledge that we're introducing powerful technology into environments where trust and engagement are already fragile. And when you introduce AI into a low trust, disengaged culture, you don't solve the problem, you automate it. So here's the truth. AI is only as good as the human directing it. I think you've heard that theme today. The most common mistake leaders make is treating AI adoption as an IT project rather than a leadership and culture transformation. So what we often call soft skills, emotional intelligence, resilience, relationships, these are becoming the hardest skills that matter most, because culture and leadership have a direct effect on whether people are engaging, adapting, and growing with the transformation. I'm sure many of you know that employees today most employees would choose a better boss over more pay. When people show up, the reason why people show up and how they show up to work has everything to do with the soft skills. So we have to pay attention to that and help people with this massive change, especially when anxiety is already so high. Every AI system still requires a human being. AI doesn't set strategy. Humans do. AI doesn't build relationships and get people moving towards a vision together. Humans do. And AI doesn't write a great prompt, interpret the nuanced output, or decide what to do with the result. Humans do. So to make it real, I want to give you an example. So 2 teams use AI to write a client proposal. One team takes the first draft. It's polished but generic. The other team challenges it, refines it, kind of does the things that Josh was outlining on the front end and the back end. They add context and judgment, and they win the business. It's the same tool, and it's a different outcome. So the difference wasn't the AI, the difference was the human. The World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report projects that while AI will indeed displace approximately 85 million jobs by 2030, and I think that's a lot, it will actually simultaneously create 97 million new roles, more than what is displaced. Roles that require those uniquely human capabilities: critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, adaptability. So it's not a zero-sum game, but it's also not evenly distributed. The net is positive, but only for the people who are developed enough to step into the new roles. So development of people will be required for this net positive change to happen. The leaders who will succeed and eventually thrive with full AI adoption have people at the center, specifically people who can direct AI with clarity, evaluate the outputs critically, adapt continuously, and build trust within teams so decisions can be made with the best information at the table. AI raises the floor for everyone, but it also raises the ceiling for anyone willing to develop themselves. A useful way to think about this is to let AI own tasks and to let humans own relationships. AI is exceptional at processing data, identifying patterns, generating those drafts, but it can't build trust. It can't navigate ambiguity or show empathy in those moments that matter, create meaning, give people a reason to care, give people the lived experience of belonging to an organization, that culture, that still belongs to humans. There was an interesting article in the New York Times that talked about this growing pattern in healthcare, that when people have a medical concern, they're turning first to ChatGPT and other AI tools before they contact their clinician. And when asked why, one person summed it up perfectly. ChatGPT has all day for me. It never rushes me out of the chat. So in other words, they went to ChatGPT because it listens to them. So in the day and age of AI, the differentiator won't be who has the best information. It'll be who can listen, create psychological safety, build trust, and bring emotional control to challenging situations. MIT Sloan Management Review research has shown that the highest performing AI implementations are those in which human judgment and machine intelligence are complementary, not substitutive. So the question isn't, can AI do this? Because it increasingly can. The question is, should AI do this? And that's really deeply human. It's a deeply ethical question that no algorithm can answer for you. I believe that AI-enabled organizations don't need leaders who know how to use every tool. They need leaders with an expanded human skill set, including leaders with a growth mindset, not being afraid to fail while using AI. Josh talked about this in the form of curiosity. But AI is new. It's going to take time for us to determine how best to use it. Cultivating a mindset where failure is a learning tool and growth comes when we fail, just like that image we saw. As leaders, we have to cultivate that mindset for ourselves, and we have to help our teams not be afraid to fail. We need AI fluency, not technical expertise, but enough literacy to ask the right questions, spot the limitations, direct AI with intention, those communication skills. But if you think of it, but like financial literacy, you don't have to be an accountant to lead a business, but you have to understand the numbers. So it's fluency. Emotional intelligence, as these cognitive tasks switch to AI, the leader's primary differentiator is going to be the ability to connect, motivate, read situations, and respond with empathy. EQ, according to Harvard Business Review, accounts for 90% of the difference between high performers and peers with similar technical skills. We need resilience and adaptability. Leaders who model adaptability, who treat not yet as a direction, not a failure, will create cultures that can move with this change rather than against it. We need ethical reasoning. We have to slow down, ask hard questions, and make principled decisions when the pressure is to move fast. We just heard that too. Slow down. This is arguably the most underinvested leadership skill in the AI era, that ethical reasoning. And we also need to develop others. Most critically, we need to grow our people. AI might be able to train a model, but it cannot build a human being's sense of purpose, confidence, or capability. That requires intentional, human-led investment. I think there are 4 key considerations that leaders should prioritize in this new world, and here they are. The first is transparency over convenience. Hidden AI erodes trust. Employees have a right to know when AI is being used to make or influence decisions, so we need to tell them when we're using AI. We need to use AI as a thought partner and hold humans accountable for the decisions. So when AI makes a mistake, and it will, a human being has to be responsible. We can't outsource our ethical accountability to an algorithm. So the moment your organization says the AI decided, you're on the wrong track. We have to be thoughtful about the transition. AI's benefits and disruptions are not evenly distributed. Leaders have a responsibility to ask, Who in our workforce is most vulnerable to displacement? What are we doing to develop them? What does a just transition look like in our organization? Just the way IKEA did it in the example that Karin gave. You know, the social contract between employer and employee is being rewritten right now. And the leaders who engage with that consciously will earn trust, and those who don't will lose it. And lastly, it would be short-sighted to skip the first couple of years of an employee's tenure at your organization. So if entry-level jobs are being displaced by AI handling the tasks, what does the new entry-level job look like? The preparation to get people ready for entry-level work is likely the same or less than it has been in the past, because we see many challenges with EQ in entry-level positions in companies that we work with because it isn't being taught. There are other key skills that are learned in those first few years. So how will you create new entry-level jobs with training to help people get ready to move up in your organization? Again, IKEA reskilling 8,500 customer service and moving them to interior design is just a great example of this. So coming back to the question, if AI can write, analyze, code, design, what's your job? Your job is to be more human, not less, to build trust where AI breeds anxiety, to develop people who AI displaces, and to ask the ethical questions that AI can't ask itself, and to create meaning in work that AI can execute but never understand. The organizations that will lead the next decade aren't the ones with the most sophisticated AI. They're the ones figuring out how to keep their people at the center of it, developing them, trusting them, and building workplaces where human beings genuinely thrive. So if AI is the multiplier, then leadership, mindset, and human capabilities are the inputs. And the organizations that win won't be the ones with the best AI. If developing people is not separate from your AI strategy, it actually is your AI strategy. The technology gets smarter every day. Are your people getting better? That's the real question to ask. So I hope you're walking away with 3 takeaways. AI amplifies human judgment. AI is only as good as your people. Most people think AI is a technology investment, and the winners understand it's a human capability multiplier. Technical skills get you access to AI, and human skills determine what you do with it. So the competitive advantage has shifted to human skills. Critical thinking to question outputs, emotional intelligence to lead through change, communication to prompt, guide, and align, judgment to know when not to use AI. Organizations that double down on human development will outperform those chasing the tools alone. And lastly, the best AI strategies are looking at elevating people, not replacing them. It's the difference between short-term and long-term thinking. High-performing organizations are using AI to remove the low-value work and reinvesting that time into the higher-order thinking, relationships, and creativity, and protecting that human connection, leadership, and culture, which are the keys to how humans and AI work together. And with that, I will turn it back to Matt.
Thank you so much, Laura. These sections are just all flowing into each other really nicely, and that really made sense of some practical ways to look at the challenges that we face and really implement them within the workplace right now. So I'm really, really grateful. I'm also conscious of time, so I will say thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, Laura's gone. So let's welcome to the Power Hour, our final speaker, and somebody I've been really looking forward to having on our Power Hour. When we decided to talk about this topic, one of the first names on our list, and that's Frank Diaz, founder of AI X and Comms Lab, an AI adoption and change consultant at Quilter. Frank specializes in helping organizations move beyond experimentation into sustainable AI transformation. Today, he'll share why successful AI integration requires more than deployment. It requires a clear vision of what the organization is actually trying to become. So please welcome Frank.
Thank you very much, Matt. Can you see and hear me okay?
We can, and I'm just letting you know that whilst there's 10 minutes of the hour left, please don't feel hurried or rushed because it won't explode at the end of the hour. We can roll over, but I'm going to leave you to it, and looking forward to hearing.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, three great speakers. We've all heard three powerful arguments here in the last 40 minutes. Karin made the case that AI mirrors and can amplify culture, and that trust, purpose, and people are the edge. Josh made the case that AI can't and shouldn't lead, and that speed isn't leadership if we are to grow our curiosity, definition of us, prove the clarity of our thinking, and cultivate our wisdom. We have to slow down. And Laura made the final point in her talk around the case that your people are your AI strategy. And it's about clear separation where we lead with relationship building and task automation is really for AI. So I agree with all three of our speakers today. And I feel and see it every day in the work that I'm involved in. Now I want to add a piece that potentially holds them all together to give you a bit more direction of travel and to really sort of enable leading AI as human first, because without it, all of this becomes good intentions without direction. Everything you've heard is about how of leading with AI, how to keep humans at the center, how to lead with what AI can't do, how to develop the people who will direct the technology. And all of it is true. All of it is necessary. And all of it falls apart really in the absence of one question. Where are we actually heading? Now, most organizations and us aren't really doing real humans with AI transformation. We're experiencing AI adoption on a treadmill. And what I mean by that is new tools, new training, new materials, same tasks, same work, just as an AI wrapper for more light efficiency, more light productivity gains, more light value, just to say it's making some difference. And then we repeat all of that. And through the points already made, we are feeling it and it's tiring. We are feeling the motion without any sort of real direction, without a destination. What are we striving towards with all of this adoption about just doing stuff? That's how we'll lose the trust. That's how we'll erode the human edge. And it's not really truly developing people the right way to build self-motivated habits for most of us. Because without destination, we're just running to try to show someone something, anything. Behavior change is about desire to change, motivation. Just like when you're at the gym, you normally choose to do more than just the treadmill, right? You're trying weight, you may be doing a bit of CrossFit, you're doing stuff with a goal in mind to run that 10K, to achieve that dream of something related to getting fitter. You're self-motivated and have the desire to achieve the destination. Now, I recently shared that for almost one in every. I recently shared on LinkedIn that for every £1 organizations spend on, let's say, AI licenses or not, they need to spend an extra £5 on the cultural and capability work to upskill their people, from training, time, event, materials, speakers, and more. But because there's no simple playbook, most are spending the £1 with some skimping on the £5. But that's a bit I'd add now. The £5 shouldn't be spent on just the culture work. It should also be spent on giving people something worth heading towards, a direction, a destination. So 2 questions worth holding for the rest of this session. 1, what value does my function deliver to the business that no one else can? And number 2, what are you asking our people to commit their careers to? Because if we can't answer these questions, then we can't begin to shape a destination. And instead, it's just business as usual. Now, once we have a destination, and there doesn't need to be just one, we may have a range of options, we can then start to reverse engineer back to current day. So if I were to take the example of internal comms, that's the work example. Let's say I've got 3 destinations, a function like internal comms could deliberately pick to redesign and refocus on. One of them could be intelligence. The IC team becomes the organization's sensing and sense-making layer. Their core output isn't simply communications to employees, it's intelligence to leadership. The value, really sort of better strategic value decisions at the top faster, with humans leading and AI supporting. Another destination could be an expert in architecture. So the internal comms team becomes the operating system for how information, narrative, and culture flows through the organization. Controversial, they don't write the content, they design the system that produces, governs, and routes it, picking the right channel for the right audience at the right time. The value, a coherent information layer the rest of the business can actually use and trust, that's hyper personalized to their employees. So in theory, much better engagement. And the final destination as a possibility is stewardship. Internal comms deliberately seeds production to AI on the platforms they use and doubles down on the AI they can't touch. Doubles down on what AI can't touch. So coaching leaders to communicate with presence and authenticity, holding the line on dignity, values, ethics. The value there for them, if they go down that route, is trust as a strategic asset. 3 destinations, same methodology, slightly different work that internal comms could evolve into. Of course, you can say internal comms today dabbles across all 3 of those. However, destinations are about bold new moves, the art of the possible. And I'm going to walk through one of them with you. And I'm going to pick architecture. So how do you turn a destination into a direction? You design it from the destination. So let's say you stand 24 months out at your chosen destination. Let's describe it concretely, not as a vision statement, but as a Tuesday. From architecture, that Tuesday could look like this. The team isn't writing the manager comms anymore. They're designing the system that produces, governs, and routes them. AI is the production layer. Humans are the architecture layer. Gilmix has tilted towards information design, governance, and behavioral insight. Then you turn around and look honestly at where you are now. Reactive, ticket-driven, channel fragmented, AI bolted on to make existing outputs seem faster. AI drafts in newsletters, summaries get generated, decks get polished. That's the pure treadmill that we're on today. Doing for the sake of doing so you can take on more doing. The gap isn't tooling, it's these 3 issues. 1, no codified and cataloged narrative architecture for AI to operate inside by your professional design about the rules of internal comms. Number 2, no decision rights for what AI can and can't do unsupervised. This must be a mini governance doc, your team charter. And 3, the skills mix is still running 8% production, 20% strategy. This has to flip if we're to realize our fuller human value. That's a transformation plan there, very simplified within the time I've got. But it helps you to do exactly what Joss said about stopping, also looking at where you start, what to hand to AI, what to defend as human professionals. It all sounds simple, right? But the work you can start doing tomorrow shouldn't just be about everyone adopt AI, whatever that truly means. We're already doing that. The real first chapter as a team should be 2 days in a room with all of you together with the right facilitator to help you answer these 4 questions. What's your destination? What value do we deliver no one else can? How do we use AI to enhance our human expertise? And what do we deliberately not use it for? That's a workshop. That's a start. How can you not want to do that work? The good news is most teams haven't chosen their destination. They haven't done this work so far. However, the bad news is the destination is then choosing them from a different decision maker that isn't you. Where you won't be the decision maker for your own future if you're not careful. So it's time to take back our own future led by you. So here's a summary of what we've already heard. Karin's given us a case for trust and purpose at the edge. Joss has given us a case for AI, what AI can't do. Laura's just given us the case for the people who direct it. And what I'll add, piece that holds elements of this together, is that none of it works without a destination people can see and choose to walk towards to enable everything that the other fantastic speakers have spoken about. Trust without direction will drift. Human edge without direction dulls. People development without direction becomes a training budget with low take-up. Direction towards a destination is the thing that turns all of this from intent into momentum. So I'm going to close now. You'll be glad to hear. So if you take one thing away from the four of us today, stop asking about how many people in your business are using AI. Start asking, what is the function and the people in this business actually becoming with this AI today? And it is a destination people should choose to walk towards. If we can't articulate a better destination that we should be striving for. First question is about slowing down to reflect now. The second is then about the required leadership decision making that needs to set the right course. Most organizations can't answer either with confidence today. That's the gap. That's the work that I want each of you to take away and start answering tomorrow, not as individuals, but as teams. Anyway, that's everything I wanted to say around destination.
Thank you so much, Frank. And what a brilliant way to bring it all together right at the end for every storyteller. So all I have to say is thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
No, it's just really great to hear all the different angles that people were talking about today. We're not hearing enough about it, is what I would say. These conversations are not properly taking place in the mainstream. Yeah, so it's up to us to try and set some of that course in action.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. And I think this won't be the last time we have these conversations. Biased, maybe recency bias, but I think this is the we've had. So thank you so much. I often do a wrap up, but I don't think I can add anything to what our four storytellers have given us today. It's absolutely incredible insight, thinking, and guidance about where you need to put your mind when it comes to AI in the workplace. So I, for one, am going to be watching this again. We're going to do some hard work to make some of these clips a bit shorter so you can see them and take some of those thought-provoking points at a more bite-sized level. But just want to say thank you again to all four of our storytellers, Karin, Josh, Laura, and Frank. And thank you for watching. And it excites me that you might be able to take some of this stuff back into your workplaces and make sense of it. Thank you so much. Take care.